We are officially in that time of the year where it's the season of deep reflection, planning, and setting high energy resolutions for the new year. Most of the time, just looking back at your past year and maybe jotting down all the things that happened, that didn't happen, that you did or didn't do can be helpful, but it can also lead to inaccurate conclusions about yourself and about how things have been. From there, there's a risk of repeating the same goals. And that's because our system has a vested interest in not seeing things clearly. By default, our system mixes up what actually happened with what should have happened. And this is proven by neuroscience. We think that we learn from doing, but what we do is we learn before doing, create a worldview about how we work, how things work, and how the world works. And then from there, when we set goals, it doesn't turn out to be very different than the past. From my own life, in my reflection process, I've noticed a pattern over the years. Most of the goals I set for myself aren't actually like new goals. They're just repackaged version of the same old goals with some guilt added in. Think about that for a second. Have you ever said to yourself, I'm going to do yoga every single day in the next year? Maybe your version is gym. On the surface, it sounds like a healthy goal. Yes, I want to take care of my health and I want to develop good habits. But if you're being really honest, for most of us, that's actually translation for I should have done yoga this year and I didn't. I feel bad about it. I feel like I'm failing in my habits. So I better get my shit together and do it next year. That's what I call the resentment loop. The planning for next year is fueled by guilt, shame, regret, self-judgment of how things have been in the past. And if this resentment loop is the fuel for your 2026, you're going to run out of gas by February. Or worse, you might hustle harder and wonder why you're not reaching your goals. And your goals may be about getting promoted, expanding your business, getting the job you wanted, or working on that dream project. Does that resonate? If any of this resonates with you so far, go ahead and tell me in the comments or reviews of this podcast. Now, I want to be clear. Having a should and saying that I want to do better next year isn't always a bad signal. There is usually a truth hidden inside it. So that part of you that's saying, I should do better, I should do yoga every day next year, I should take care of my health, or I should be doing something different next year, it's reminding you that you're capable of a different way of living. And that matters. It signals to the things that are really important for you. But we have to be honest about where this goal is coming from. In my work, I found that our experience of our next year is determined by two mental models, and it's determined by which of these models is doing the planning for you. Model number one is what I call 2D thinking. This is the hustle model. This is the rigid, flat picture of success that we've all been taught, where you're only as worthy as your last achievement or the achievements you have accumulated in your life. This is the picture of success that we have internalized through other people's stories or the society or the current self-help narrative. You might be measuring your success based on your relationships, based on whether you have a partner, how good that relationship is, or how good your work is, how big your team is, etc., etc. So in this kind of 2D thinking, effort is proportional to results. And if you're not winning that particular game, whatever that game is for you, in this model, it occurs like you just aren't doing the right things, or you aren't doing the right things hard enough or with more effort. This model is heavy, it's rigid, it completely ignores the fact that real impact comes from rest, deep relationships, and clearer understanding of yourself. There is neuroscience research behind this, that the more we experience connection and belonging in our life, the more creativity it opens for us in our work lives. I have a story from my own life to back this up. There was a close family member I didn't realize I was kind of upset with. And it was unconscious. So I would call this person, and there would be a little bit of distance between us. We would just talk at the surface level. And there would be long periods. There would be long periods of time where I would not call this person at all, even though they're very important to me. I would just avoid that conversation. Then I've been thinking about, okay, what's actually happening here? And when I really looked at it, I understood that there was a part of me that was upset and hurt with them, and hurt with a particular thing that they were doing in conversation with me. And that because of that, I just didn't want to go back there. So I avoided that. Then I called up this family member, and then I was honest. Like, I was honest about what I wanted. I said, hey, whenever we talk, can we get some more private time together instead of you doing something in parallel? Then we had a conversation about it. There was repair, and it was a really good, honest conversation. The next day of that conversation was magical because all the pending tasks in my list got done. And I did some things that I had been avoiding for long. I talked to some important people, and I moved forward on things that seemed a little hard. The point of the story is that when I had resolution in that particular relationship that was important, for a whole another level of creativity, impact, and energy opened up in other areas of my life. When you focus on rest, certain resolving certain emotions, and creating more connection in your relationships, and creating a better understanding of yourself, you might actually do more impactful things in your work or in the projects that are important to you. And this 2D thinking model of hustling harder, the results that I want, does not account for these other dimensions of your life. So that brings us to model number 2, the multidimensional model. This is a vision model, not the hustle model. It's the start of working on a vision that is close to your heart. It doesn't mean that you focus only on self care. It doesn't ignore money or career success, but it includes certain dimensions of your life that we unconsciously do not take into account, like joy. How much presence am I able to bring into my work? How much connection am I able to tap into? And how much am I evolving into the next version of myself? It's not about fixing what's wrong with you, but it's about evolving into the person who can actually enjoy the journey as much as the destination. A lot of spiritual traditions, coaching ideologies are about this thing. You might have heard about the famous quote about how the journey is as important as the result. And if we don't know which model we are using, if we don't know that we are coming from the 2D model of hustle proportional to results, or this multidimensional model that includes my well-being, joy, play, lightness, we risk spending another year chasing goals that feel empty. Or worse, we end up maybe hitting our targets, maybe not hitting our targets, but with a familiar experience of low level anxiety, wondering why we aren't happy even though we are doing all the right things. So, how do we move forward towards that multidimensional vision? I want to give you a couple of steps for your reflection. Number 1 is to come to a place of recognizing that there is a story you're telling about yourself and about your year. My version of that story is that I didn't work hard enough or I didn't do the right things. You might have a different story. Some examples of such stories are: I can't make this work. I didn't work enough. I didn't do the right things. I didn't have enough luck. I didn't focus on the important things. All these stories might be true, but we are not looking at whether the stories are true or not. We are just looking at how there is a story that you are interpreting your ear through, and that story might be creating a worldview for you, from which certain things will be impossible for your next year. So the first step is to recognize and be able to acknowledge that, okay, however I'm looking at my past year, there is a story about it and I have an interpretation about it. So once we have that recognition, we can come to step number 2. List down all the things that should have happened, that shouldn't have happened, that were wrong with you, that were wrong with the world, that were wrong with your boss, the people you're working with, your family members, your kids' school, whoever you interact with most. We are going to list down all the resentments that you have. Now, this exercise is so that you can see that even though you feel strongly about those resentments and there might be valid reasons why you have those resentments, those are still stories and interpretations. Reality goes however it goes. People behave however they behave. The work for us is to arrive at a place for ourselves where we have more freedom and we have more creativity and more commitment to make an impact to the things that are important for us. And that can only happen when we get an objective look at what actually happened, not buy into what should have happened. And this is a huge one in many spiritual traditions. If you say, I failed at my health habits this year, that is an interpretation. The fact might be, I went to the gym 12 times in 12 months. And when you look at that fact without the story of failure, you will find a certain freedom to maybe have things go differently and maybe even celebrate that you actually went to the gym 12 times as opposed to 2024 where you went 0 times. So that is still like an upward trajectory. Now from there you can say, okay, so last year I went to gym 12 times. This year I'm going to bring that up to maybe 100 times in the year. So when you look at the facts and the reality objectively without the story of failure, there is a different energy that you can step into, the different way of being. So when you write down this list of all the shoulds, should nots, did and did nots, you want to really pick out the interpretations from the fact. The next step is to really let yourself feel that emotion that is associated with the story. So if you have a story like me about how I did not work hard enough, that was associated with a heavy disappointment and regret for me. And if you are a high achiever and have a type A personality like me, usually disappointment is the fuel to achieve more. Oh, I'm disappointed by what happened and who I've been, so I'm going to do better next time. Instead, walk through the disappointment. It's okay that you were disappointed, and it's okay that you felt whatever you felt. That emotion is the pain that your system has stored from the past and is not letting you look at things more objectively. So instead of running away from that pain, if you really feel the fear, anger, disappointment, the shame, the helplessness, the rage or sadness or grief, whatever you find in that story, as you sit with that and let the emotion move through you, there will be space for other things. As you heal your heart and move through the emotions, the heaviness and the rigidity of the story will drop a little bit. So this step is all about walking through the emotion, giving yourself the gift of healing the pain of the past, and letting go of the hold you have on certain stories you have about yourself. Then step 3 is ask yourself, what do you want to experience in the next year? Before you go to what you need to do, you want to really get clear on the vision that you have for yourself, on what you want to experience this coming year. Going back to the example, you might have said that, okay, I didn't do yoga enough last year, so I'm going to go join a class this year. Instead of that, because that is skipping the step in between where you analyze the story that this action is coming from, where the story might be that I didn't do enough, I am lazy, or I don't stick to my commitments, so I need external accountability. Whatever that conclusion might be, the previous step is going to create some awareness of that, what that story is. And as you walk through the emotion of that story, it loses a little bit of the hold it has on you. And that's an important part of the process. So when you actually do that, the action might be same, that you might join a class, but there would be more options opening up for you. If in the first way, in the 2D thinking way, you might join a class and then come February or March, there would be times where you would not go to the class that you signed up for. And then the same story will show up that you're not doing it enough or you're not doing it right. The same crappy experience of disappointment or beating yourself up or regret or self-judgment will show up. So it would not be very different from the previous year. So instead, in this multidimensional model that we are talking about, once you have processed the emotion and identified the story, when the story shows up again, you would have the elevation to say that, oh, I am falling into that story again. And I know that that's an interpretation. And then you will have more options to work with. Okay, it seems that I signed up for this class, so maybe I need something to fulfill that commitment. Or you might say that this class is not working for me. Maybe I'll talk to my partner and go for a walk instead. There might be like multiple options open up for you instead of beating yourself up for not doing the thing again another millionth time. So for this to work, we are going to really sit in what is it that you want to experience this year. You might say that with regards to health, I want to feel strong in my body. I want to feel the strength and aliveness. And when I walk out of my house, I just want to feel good in my body. Sit with that, expand that a little bit, and then make it grounded in your day-to-day experience. Let's say you feel strong in your body. What would that look like? How would we know? For me, when it's 8 p.m., it's usually the time I feel tired. When I have this strength in my body, I will want to play with my kid instead of rejecting her slightly. If you skip straight to the action without articulating the experience that you have, you might land right back in the hustle and grind story that you have for yourself. So I want to challenge you to stop shooting yourself through life and have another year of the same kind of disempowered experience of yours. Really sit with what do you want to experience and then work backwards. What does that mean? It might mean that you might join that class. You might call a friend and then do something with them. Now, this topic is only one example. You might want to sit with what you want to experience in multiple areas of your life. How do you want your relationships to go? Do you want to show up with more love, more presence? Then your work, you may be working some unsustainable hours right now and still not getting that promotion or the big expansion of the scope of the work that you wanted. So what is it that you want to experience instead? Do you want to show up with more leadership, more power, more impact? And how does that look like? What does that mean? What's a measure of success? How would we know that those things are happening for you? So sit with all of that, then make a plan. The default is to make this plan without acknowledging the stories and the emotions that we have about ourselves and that dictated our past. My invitation is for you to actually look at all of that stuff, walk through the emotions, recognize the stories, and then build your vision and plan for next. We can have an experience of work, leadership, and well-being that feels honest, alive, and that feels really good in our hearts. Hope that was helpful. I'd love to hear from you. What resonates in this? What are some things that you want to make a change for yourself for the next year?